Slide up to the snack bar. Grab a beverage and maybe something to eat, and watch another movie with Rob and Zeke. Slide up to the snack bar. Forrest went to Vietnam with Lieutenant Dan.
I'm not a smart man.
Slide up to the snack bar. Season's greetings and welcome once again to Cinema Snack Bar. I'm Rob Alley.
And I'm Zeke Tucker.
And wow.
I don't know.
We're just hopping right in.
It felt like it.
Zeke's
felt
doing
like
this
it was
one
good.
in character this week.
I will be Forrest Gump the whole time.
We're here to talk about the movies you love and the foods that help make them awesome. And this week, we are talking about our first listener submitted episode. We've done Zeke's Choice, My Choice, and AFI Top 100 last week in Snow White. And now we're doing our first audience pick, and that is going to be
Forrest Gump.
Forrest Gump. Definitely a classic movie, but one that I'll just be real, I don't like. I don't like this movie. And so this is going to be different just from me. I mean, I'm not like, I've got all my usual notes and stuff, but I'm just going to say out front, this is not a movie that I enjoy.
That is, from the outside, I go, man, that's really surprising. But because I know you, I go, okay, that makes sense based on the type of movies you like. It is one of the most quotable.
That felt pointed.
That did feel pointed. I didn't mean it that way. I just went, okay, I get it. I get you. So I was like, oh, okay, he's not a Forrest Gump guy. I didn't necessarily think I was a Forrest Gump guy. And then I bawled my eyes out twice while we watched it this week.
I can't wait to hear when.
Oh, I did. I mean, it is like, I don't know. It's a very, if you think about some of the most popular movies of all time, maybe not most important, but Forrest Gump, Titanic, things like that. This is on that list.
Oh, for sure. And with its mark on pop culture, I mean, this is huge. It has things that, 25 years plus later are still common phrases that you hear. And one of them, probably the most popular phrase is, Mama always said life was like a box of chocolates.
Yep.
You never know what you're going to get, which brings us to our food selection today for Forrest Gump, which is, we have attempted, and I will say attempted. We have attempted to make homemade milk chocolate.
Yes.
And, we'll talk about that in the food segment, and we'll try it and see how it came out.
I hope it's good.
But you and me both. But so we'll see what we get. We'll find out. It's going to be kind of exactly like a box of chocolates.
I mean, we are going to see what we don't know. You never know what you're going to get.
But first, let's talk about Forrest Gump. You said it is a, as popular movies go, it is just right up there for people of like my generation and a little younger. And I guess this is a cross-generational thing. Everybody from like, is. Because boomers have things to love about this movie,
right.
For sure, or at least to reminisce about throughout this movie. And then, and it's watchable by anybody. It is, in fact, also on the AFI Top 100. It was not one of the ones that we randomly selected to be on our list. But it is number 76 on the American Film Institute's Top 100 list. And it is number 11 on the IMDb Top Movies list.
I saw that, which is an impressive goal, you know? I mean, maybe not goal. That is an impressive feat to be one of the top 15, top 20.
Sure. Because you think about, even like IMDb movies that are rated like a 90 or above, there are a lot. A fair number of those,
right.
So for this to be like number 11 on the all-time IMDb,
pretty big deal.
It's pretty impressive. It means people are still loving Forrest Gump, essentially, is what we're saying.
Right. The Life is Like a Box of Chocolates is number 40 on the top 100 movie quotes of all time.
Okay.
Yes, I forget where I read that, but I was like, that makes sense.
Yeah,
and that's such a good way to go. It is chocolate based. It is food based. Yeah. It is what we love here.
That's right. So we're going to try it. We're going to try chocolate later. A little more on Forrest Gump. It won 6 Oscars in 1995. It won for Best Visual Effects, Best Film Editing, Best Writing, (screenplay), based on material previously published, because it was a book originally. And it won for Best Director, which would be Robert Zemeckis, who we'll talk about, Best Leading Actor, Tom Hanks, and Best Picture. So this is not only a beloved movie, but a highly acclaimed, well awarded movie. It was nominated for 7 additional Oscars and
what did it not win?
I didn't look up the categories.
Okay.
I know.
I wanted to know.
I know Gary Sinise was nominated for Best Supporting Actor for Lieutenant Dan. But that's the others I'm not sure about. Probably the score. I imagine the original, the music was probably.
It was super beautiful.
And in this one, you have beautiful score and you have a killer soundtrack.
It is like, I forgot how good this soundtrack was. It is so iconic. Some of these, I feel like movies that came out later tried to mimic some of the things. So Whitney was talking about this earlier, where, what is the song when it's the war song?
Fortunate Son by Creedence by CCR.
Okay. Yeah. Yes. So that when they're running through Vietnam.
I always picture military something.
Yes. It's like,
when I just feel like after this, everyone was like, yeah, that is the song. When we're running through Vietnam, you can't use anything else.
you know, you have a point, because kind of this was sort of the turn of the 90s, mid 90s was when you had a lot of movies started turning from traditional scores to, song based soundtracks where they would they're like, let's just use a song that already exists that feels right. You know, you had some of that in the past, but you go less from like, Ghostbusters or stuff that has original music written for it. I don't know why I went straight to Ghostbusters, but I did.
That was a shift,
but like
transition.
Or Dirty Dancing, where you have songs that are written for the movie. You know what I mean? But they're just like, nah, I love this freaking Rage Against the Machine song. Let's use it, you know, and put it
bit easier.
It's kind of the Guardians of the Galaxy formula, right? In the modern day.
I mean, that is a killer soundtrack too.
It's that same sort of formula. It sort of ingratiates you to the movie because you love this song, right? And then you pair it with a cool visual, so it helps you remember and connect on a different level. It's like you say, when you hear Fortunate Son, you think about people running through the jungle,
right?
Or maybe when you hear Run Through the Jungle, also by CCR, you would think of people running through the jungle. But so yeah, great soundtrack, a huge soundtrack too, as far as like sales, but also a massive, it was a double CD and it had 36 tracks or something. I mean, it was like everything.
I mean, the movie is 2.5 hours long, and a lot of it is filled with music. So I mean, it's going to have a 2-disc CD set,
and the music is helping you to follow through the timeline as well.
It is.
So
it really is.
You're going from the mid 60s to the 80s, really, in this.
I feel like it helped more than anything. It helped Jenny's transition, because she had a lot of styles. Yeah. Jenny had a lot of styles in this movie, and every time it switched to her, she was wearing a very specific type of garb, of outfit, and that music.
Decade,
yes, and that music played a part in all of it.
Yeah, maybe let's do the plot summary first. Let me just give you the plot summary, and then we'll dig in, so that if you have no idea what Forrest Gump is, this will kind of paint the picture for you a little bit. This is the plot summary according to IMDb. The presidencies of Kennedy and Johnson, the Vietnam War, the Watergate scandal, and other historical events unfold from the perspective of an Alabama man with an IQ of 75, whose only desire is to be reunited with his childhood sweetheart. That to me sounds like an incomplete plot summary.
It does to me too.
That it kind of misses the point a little bit.
Right.
But hey, it is what it is.
I read a much simpler plot summary, and it really resonated with me, because I feel like, if anything, this is where I can bond with Forrest Gump. Okay. It says, Forrest Gump is a simple man with a low IQ but good intentions.
Okay.
And that's just what I feel like my life goal has been so far.
Sure.
Low IQ but good intentions. And I feel like that, it's an honorable thing.
Yeah.
I feel like combining those two might get the plot summary properly covered. But I know, but like both of those, it's such an intense movie that I feel like that summary doesn't get it. Like, I'm not getting, it's not the same movie than what I watched.
Right. Yes. It's not a comprehensive summary.
No,
Let's say that. Okay.
It's not.
It would be hard. I mean, it's a long movie and it covers, 2.5 decades, 3 decades worth of time. Well, it goes back further than that, because he's tiny when it first starts out.
Right.
So, which is where we come back to Elvis Presley. You have a scene where basically Forrest starts and he has these braces on his legs because he has
his weak back,
curved spine or whatever.
Question mark.
Yeah, his back looks like a question mark.
I thought you were having a question. I thought you were inserting question mark here. But so you have a thing where he's dancing and this young man is renting a room at his mom's house, and it turns out to be Elvis Presley. You see him from the back. And I read that the voice of Elvis was actually Kurt Russell.
I saw that. That's awesome.
Makes sense. But so he sort of teaches Elvis this dance by just dancing around kind of oddly with his braces on. And that turns out to be the dance that Elvis does, that wows everybody later with his, all the hips and the whatnot. But anyway, we go all the way from Elvis Presley. Then we get into stuff like the Rooftop Singers, Wilson Pickett, to Joan Baez, Creedence Clearwater Revival, Aretha Franklin, Bob Dylan, Beach Boys, Mamas and the Papas. The Doors are all over this. I mean, the music of the late 60s and 70s that
Right.
this soundtrack hits is like, it's insane. You get like Age of Aquarius, Joy to the World, Three Dog Night, Raindrops Keep Falling on My Head by B.J. Thomas. You get Sweet Home Alabama. You get a couple Skinner songs in there. You get
Yeah.
Sweet Home Alabama, and you get Freebird, which plays in a key scene later
Right.
that we'll talk about. But anyway, you get Gladys Knight. It's just massive.
I feel like this is probably one of the just like top 10 soundtracks. Like it is intense. It is stacked.
Yeah, it's hard to beat. It's like this is a soundtrack that lifts weights and does not skip leg day.
It doesn't. It's
Very, very beefy and hard to beat in a fight. And then Alan Silvestri did the score, and he did the the feather theme.
Yeah.
But later, if you know him from like more modern day stuff, he does all the like Avengers soundtracks.
Oh,
and,
that
he's the
tracks.
one that wrote the Avengers theme and all that stuff. Let's see. Directed by Robert Zemeckis, who is probably most known either for this or the Back to the Future trilogy.
Right.
He, has done a ton of stuff, even from stuff that like nobody really remembers, like Death Becomes Her, or he did Contact and Flight. Whitney,
I love Death Becomes Her.
do you? Okay.
Is that the one with Meryl Streep?
Yes. And
Okay, you
Goldie
love.
Hawn.
Oh my word!
Yes.
She made me watch that so many
He
times.
used to come on
Really?
TV all the time.
Yeah. Oh, she
Man.
loves it.
okay. So Robert Zemeckis, kind of a legendary director, writer, producer. He's done it all at this point. Do you think if you just walked up to 500 people at various places around the world, more people would know Forrest Gump or Back to the Future?
I don't know. I'm hoping that I just had a bubble in my throat, and I heard it. I heard it through the earphones. So if you heard it, there's a little ASMR. I would say Forrest. Oh no, I don't know.
It's hard to. I don't know. If you showed people the poster, the movie poster of each one, which one would they go?
I think Back to the Future has the styling of the art for Back to the Future. I think people would have more recognition for that one. However, I think Forrest Gump is more widely known. I'm questioning everything I'm saying.
Like I know Back to the Future, but I've never actually watched it. But I've watched Forrest Gump.
We are going to fix that. Let me just tell you. I can't believe. All right. Anyway. All right. I don't have a good answer. Like I'm not. I don't feel like I know the answer to that question. I just wonder. I'm just curious. I said I don't really like this movie. I don't get what it is. It's too slow and it's too long. And I'm good with slow. Like
Right.
one of my
You love some good conversation in movies.
Yeah, one of my top like 3 movies is Superman the movie, and it is slow and long.
We don't mind a slow burn.
No, I don't mind a slow burn. It's just this whole movie to me feels like a movie version of the way Forrest talks. It's like that's what the whole movie feels like to me, and
Right.
I don't want that for 2.5 hours. You know what I mean?
Go ahead, Whitney.
I have a hot take on his accent.
Go for it.
Oh, please.
I'll do this.
It's so good.
So-
it's not a hot take. It's a
Or not a hot take.
Yeah.
Tom Hanks did an interview on the Graham Norton show, and he said that the director wanted the kid to learn how to speak like Tom Hanks. But he was like, why would you do that? It's a kid. He was like 7 or 8 years old. So he listened to him and he said, I really paid attention to his long G's or like his hard G's is what he said. So he would say making and stuff like that. So he was like, that's how I learned it. I just did what he did because he was a kid from Mississippi. So he just picked up his accent.
So he took the child's accent. So that's the kid's accent. Young Forrest, that's what he talks like.
Yeah.
And Tom Hanks just went, I'm just going to go ahead and adapt that into the full character. So that's how he did that. That's how he went about that.
Folded it in.
He did. He folded in the cheese.
And then they did it just for so long. And that's basically what the whole movie feels like.
I didn't think I liked Forrest Gump. I was like, oh, this is a good classic. Let's watch this. And I actually really liked it. There is a comfort to movies like this. I don't know if it's like I don't know how to explain it. If it's the frame rate in which it's shot, if it's the style in which it's shot, but they don't rely heavily on CGI, which is one of my favorite things in the world. If you can do an entire movie with the most limited CGI, like I'm an Avengers fan.
Except for all the presidents.
I was going to say there's actually groundbreaking CGI.
It is. Okay, so, but it was still limited. Okay, so it didn't look like, so I'm a big Avengers fan. I love Marvel. I love stuff like that. But those movies, it's like an hour in, I'm like, I don't I want something real. Like if they just shot something on an iPhone in the middle of an Avengers movie, it'd probably snap me back into reality. So I think, I don't know. I love it when there's limited CGI. And I know, at least I think I talked about that in Signs, where it was limited. M. Night Shyamalan doesn't like to do heavy CGI. This CGI seemed like it worked so well that it didn't really take you out of it too much. The only thing that I have a complaint about, I mean, first off, it's 94. Okay, it's 1994. I was 4 years old. So the CGI at this point, you know, it was just the mouths every once in a while, but they imposed for us into actual scenes of these things happening. So they took the actual presidents, you know, doing whatever they were doing and did the CGI over that. I thought that was fantastic. So I thought it was fantastic. I thought the limited use of CGI until it was absolutely necessary was a triumph. And there's something about like the comfort of this that made me really enjoy this. So I feel like the older I've gotten, the more I'm like, okay, I get Forrest Gump now. I don't mind the slow burn.
Okay. The CGI was so good in the way that they used it, or so tastefully done, I'll say, even if it wasn't like great by today's standards, some of it. Now I'll say most of they used blue screen to replace Gary Sinise's legs with non-legs. And they literally went and painted the blue out of the background and painted, each frame to make his legs disappear. And part of it also, he had a wheelchair that was, it was designed by a magician named Ricky Jay.
I saw that.
And Ricky Jay has a very cool documentary. You should watch it. It's called, I can't think of what it is, but I'll find it. It's in my notes. Oh gosh, that's going to bother me. Anyway, okay, Ricky Jay. But anyway, he designed him a wheelchair that he could kind of hide his legs in the mechanism of the wheelchair.
Deceptive practice.
Thank you. Deceptive practice. Very good documentary about Ricky Jay. But the CGI was so good that there was one scene in this that was, I guess this is not CGI. It was just, they made the film look convincingly old enough that I thought a piece of film from this movie was authentic that is not.
Which scene was it?
The scene where the governor of Alabama, who decides to run for president and gets shot on the campaign, I thought that was real footage.
It was impressive because I think I thought the same thing. And I was like, who even filmed that? I was like, who got that? But it was shockingly real. There
is footage from that event, but the actual moment that it happens isn't captured. There's right before and right after. But it was done well enough that I went, did they just show us a man actually getting murdered without my consent? You know what I mean? Like I was offended by it, and I stopped watching the movie to figure out what was going on. Find out if Governor Wallace, right? And that was his name, George Wallace. I was like, is that actual? Because they did it that well, sort of making that footage look archival.
And I was just like, man, I just saw a man die. And we just kept going. We had to watch this on a DVD.
So desensitized.
We had to watch this on a DVD. Like we pulled it up and I was like, oh, we're going to have to buy this. And
it's
Whitney
on
was
Netflix.
Like, we couldn't find it. Well,
it's 100% on Netflix.
Okay, awesome. We put it on a DVD. We got the full experience.
I told you we should have checked on that.
Yeah, she did. That was my fault. So we watched it on a DVD. We had to get the DVD player out. So it all just felt like if we want to pause it, there's no remote because we can't find the remote for the DVD player. So we have to go up and stop it. So
it really took us back.
Yeah, it did. It really took us back. So I felt like it worked for Forrest Gump. Can you this CGI is 30 years old.
Yeah,
it is 30 years old. So it is rather impressive that they were able to do what they did. The only problem I had with it was the mouths. I was like, okay, that looks like...
So it's almost funny because I'm surprised. Like now, they would never let that fly because it doesn't look right. I mean, it just clearly isn't right.
Right, but
it was like
30 years of practice after that. So it was, I was impressed. I was impressed with the CGI. I expected that it would... First off, I forgot how much CGI was in this movie, but then I expected it would be... There's a thing that I see like with Marvel movies and things like that where I look back and I'm like, that Hulk is going to look awful in about 10 years.
Yeah.
But with this, I'm just like, it has stood the test of 30 years of cinema and it is still holding pretty strong. So I'm impressed with that.
When you consider, you never saw Justice League, I don't imagine, but there was
Which one?
The Zack Snyder, no, not Zack Snyder's, I'm sorry, the Joss Whedon
It's one of the new ones?
Jackson. Yeah.
Yes, I saw it.
Okay.
I might have seen it with you.
Okay, it's entirely possible. But there's a thing where they had Henry Cavill was filming a Mission Impossible movie. Cavill? Henry Cavill? Is it Cavill?
I thought it was Cavill.
Whatever. I go back and forth and I never know which is right.
I think he's the handsomest man in the world. So Cavill. Whitney, she was showing me a meme the other day, and it was about Henry Cavill. It was like, you get a day with Henry Cavill, but your best friend dies. And it just shows Keanu Reeves crying at the table sitting next to Henry Cavill. And I was like, that maps. I get it. Sorry, Henry Cavill.
It is Cavill. When it comes out of somebody else's mouth, I go, that's 100% the right British way to say it. But he was filming Mission Impossible, the latest, I can't remember if it's Ghost Protocol or whichever one he was in, and he had a mustache, and he had to go back and do reshoots for Justice League, but the Mission Impossible team would not let him shave his mustache.
I just feel like it's easier to do a fake mustache.
Yeah, but they were, I think it was a different studio, and so they weren't, they're like, we don't have to make concessions for your Justice League movie, essentially, you know what I mean? But anyway, they CGI'd out his mustache, and you can still tell, like, some of it looks really, really bad.
Yeah.
And that was 2016, 2018, you know what I mean?
Right.
So, like, the fact that
they're still struggling with mouths.
Yeah. But the fact that they pulled this off as convincingly as they did, you know what
really
I mean?
impressive.
And I tell you, one that I assumed was CGI or was actual archival footage was Dick Cavett. When he goes on the Dick Cavett show and he's sitting there with John Lennon, that's actually Dick Cavett. They filmed new footage of Dick Cavett with Tom Hanks as Forrest Gump and just cut his hair and kind of de-aged him. Oh. So that's real footage. That's real life Dick Cavett in the movie playing himself earlier, and then archival footage of John Lennon.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah. And the way they did the mouths, it wasn't like they fully CGI'd the mouths like they would do now, like they would try to do with Henry Cavill's mouth in Justice League. It's basically that old thing of where you would like hold up a piece of paper, cut a hole in it, and stick your mouth where the mouth is. It's just a digital version of that. So they filmed people saying the things and imposed that into...
Okay, that makes more sense.
Yeah.
Okay, let's talk about the design a little bit. It is, again, I don't understand why, and I probably should have researched that a little bit more, but it is one of those where if I see this movie in the background, I'm going to sleep well. You know what I mean? It's like
nostalgic.
Golf. It's like golf, or it's like golf on a Sunday, or it's like listening to football announcements on a Sunday. Like, I don't want to watch it.
Or NASCAR,
right.
It's because it's slow and monotonous.
It's like Rob just does not like it.
It is like NASCAR. It's like... Or golf. See, it does. Golf is... if this does feel like golf.
This feels like a golf match to you?
Yeah, it's like it doesn't really have any big highs or lows. It just is. To me, it just is a thing that is happening.
It's just one of the... I don't know. There's just something and maybe that is it. Maybe it's the slow, monotonous thing of it. But I feel like I'm not always going to want to nap, to Forrest Gump. But something about it, I was just like, I can put this on a lot. I can have this on in the background. I can watch it fully because you know what? It's the day and age we live in that I get on my phone a lot while we're watching movies. I try not to, but for Forrest Gump, I was really drawn into a lot of it. Like, I still remember like little specific moments where I'm just like, that's a beautiful scene. And it's just one of those beautiful movies to me. It's got the color grading that just makes me feel like it's the 90s, because it was, and it is just absolutely beautiful. I wanted to talk about the movie cover. Okay, so it's that iconic. It's one of the iconic movie covers to me. It's the fully white. It's the back of Tom Hanks, of Forrest Gump, and he's sitting on the bench. First off, just a side note, I didn't realize how many people like shuffled through on his bench rotation, which I love that. He just kept talking. There was 3, 4. I think there was 4 total. There was the woman, the nurse at the beginning, the mom, the older gentleman, and the woman at the very end. Okay, so there's 4 people, I think. So he's sitting on this bench on the front cover, and it's fully white. Love all of that. Yeah. But then I looked, now I think I can just like shut it off. As a graphic designer, sometimes I don't want to think about every aspect of design, so I'll just shut it off. But then I really thought about the font, and I was like, I do not like this.
Oh,
like,
really?
It's a little too happy. It is a drama. It is a romance drama movie. It is not, and now it has some definite, well, I mean, that's what it was. That's what it was categorized as a romance drama. Okay, so everybody is looking at me in disbelief.
Because I think most people think of it as a comedy.
Okay, see, I do not see. I see it as a drama that is funny. You
Yes,
know, like
it's-
it is drama for like at the very beginning, it is a comical drama, but the font of the title is too comical to me. It looks like a rom-com. Okay. Which I guess what you're saying is it was basically a rom-com. But I would not consider it a rom-com. I would consider it drama first and foremost. So I would have just picked a better font. You know, Zemeckis, that's okay. You don't have to do everything. You hit it out of the park on most of it.
It does look like a rom-com font. You're right. I'm looking at it now.
There's
It looks
something,
exactly like
a little bit like I feel like it's the same type of font as the new, help me out here. It's when Lindsay Lohan played a twin.
Yes, the Parent Trap.
Parent Trap.
I was about to say it looks like Cheaper by the Dozen.
It
like
does.
something
It's
that you would
something like
find
that.
on
So
a kind of a whimsical.
Love the colors. I love that everything is right aligned. You know, I'm good with all of it. I think it is a strong cover. I would have changed that font, you know, but in the 90s, maybe that was the perfect pick. I just feel like, you know, Helvetica New Bold would have been fine. Something real, like maybe even Times New Roman, a little less playful. I think that's my number one, I guess, critique design wise. I think that the rest of it honestly was really impressive. They had, speaking on the CGI again, they had a lot of budget cuts. Like the studio, I don't think had a lot of faith in them for this movie and what it was going to be. So they had budget cuts that cut out a lot of the scenes. And I found out that Robert Zemeckis and Tom Hanks waived a large part of their fee in exchange for percentage points of the movie, which gained Tom Hanks $40 million in the long run. Yeah. So I mean, that worked out in his favor, but they really had to cut a lot of stuff. So they imposed significant budget cuts, but Robert Zemeckis decided to leave out. So he left out several planned effect shots. Like there's so many in them. He meets so many presidents. Yeah. But one shot in particular involved Forrest running into Dr. Martin Luther King. Jr., and his supporters. Forrest distracts several dogs trying to attack King and his supporters by playing fetch with them and rendering them harmless to King and himself as well as his supporters. So that was a cool one, but they had to cut it, I guess, for the time. For the budget, which it would have just been awesome, but then the movie would have been, 10 minutes longer and Rob would have hated it even more. Yeah. So maybe it was best that they didn't do that. So they had a bunch of budget cuts. And that's, I don't know. They had a bunch of budget cuts. I don't think anyone felt like it would do well, but still the CGI, 30 years later, it prevailed.
I guess, is this the thing that made Tom Hanks like an icon?
I feel like it has to be. Like so first off, he is not my favorite type of actor. Loved him in this movie. Yeah. He's not one of my favorites. I mean, I love him as Woody in Toy Story. I think that to me is one of his most iconic roles. But that's from us Disney addicts.
Castaway.
Castaway. Okay, what year did Castaway come out though?
2000.
Okay, so this probably put him more on the map. Castaway was like his, Tom Hanks is the real deal.
Yeah, and that's also Robert Zemeckis.
Oh, there we go.
Written, directed, I believe. But yeah, I think. Go ahead.
I remember him from Big.
See, that's what I was going to say. At this point, he had Big. He had House Party.
I've not seen either of those.
And he had, I think, like The Burbs. Like he was like a hard comedy guy at this point.
But this was so this was his this man has range.
Yes.
He can do the most type of drama.
Yes.
Which when we hit our recast, I really put a lot of faith in my recast because I was like, I can't see. I did a lot of comedians.
Okay. Yeah.
I did a lot of comedians that I'm like, you have range for this. And I was asking Whitney about this on the way here. My favorite role that Will Ferrell ever did was Stranger Than Fiction. His drama role.
And it's a straight drama.
And oh my gosh. And then there's funny points. I mean, it's the same on this. Like he's very funny in this movie, but he's got the drama chops for it. And he really that is why Whitney turned to me and she goes, "Are you crying?" Because it was like one of those moments. Yeah. And I really he did it. I also found out that 3 people who I would never have expected turned down the role for Forrest Gump.
Oh yes. Talk about it.
It is Bill Murray, John Travolta, and Chevy Chase, who Whitney says Chevy Chase.
Oh, Chevy like the car?
Chevrolet.
Okay, yes, I know,
Spells
but it is
same.
Chevy Chase.
Chevrolet James Chase.
Chevrolet James Chase. Oh my gosh. Okay, so Bill Murray, John Travolta, Chevy Chase. They turned down the role. I think John Travolta was like, "This is a bad idea," and I was like, "Yeah, it was." Looking at your career, Tom Hanks did a bit better. Like, so I think that was a bad thing. And then there were also for Bubba, David Alan Grier, Ice Cube, and Dave Chappelle turned down the role.
Ice Cube.
And Dave Chappelle.
Yeah.
I just went, that's crazy. Dave Chappelle was like, that was a bad idea. So he said that as well. Then I don't think the picks were as good for Jenny. Well, okay, that's not true. One of the picks I was like, that would not have worked. Jodie Foster. Love Jodie Foster, but I'm like, you're not America's sweetheart for this. It's not going to work. Nicole Kidman and Demi Moore.
Yeah, Nicole Kidman, I don't see there.
I would see Jodie Foster's my last pick.
Nicole Kidman would have been very young there, so maybe she could have played it a little more as like a girl. I feel like a lot of Jenny is played as a girl.
Right. I feel like Demi Moore would have done just as good. I think Demi Moore, okay, I say that based on looks and how I would imagine she would do it, but I don't know that I've seen much that Demi Moore has acted in.
I just was trying to imagine who looks like they would do drugs.
Okay.
And I don't think, I'm definitely not Nicole Kidman. I don't see her
It's pretty drugs.
Right.
You know?
Yeah. Who looks like they're going to get taken in by various groups?
Right.
Yeah,
You know, like
absolutely.
Who's swayed easily.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah, I
That's
feel like
the
Nicole
quality.
Kidman is strong enough to not be swayed. It's not as believable. Like all of her roles, I go, okay, this is good. I see what you're doing.
And it's hard to think. Of course, now we have these people's careers, these women's careers in retrospect, where we see all these strong roles that they've played. So it's hard for us to see. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
It's
And
hard
she didn't have that many like iconic roles after this.
Nicole
did she?
Kidman?
No. I'm talking about who played Jenny. I totally forgot her name.
It's
Robin Wright.
Yeah, Robin Wright-Penn. She was in Unbreakable. Hello.
Oh my gosh.
Did that light bulb for you?
Oh no, I did not realize that
it's
was
not
her.
an iconic role, but
I mean, to me, it's almost more iconic than Jenny because I love Unbreakable.
But she had done Princess Bride, right? Which is probably her most. Oh no.
That's where she came
I've broken
from.
you.
Oh my gosh. She is. Oh my gosh.
It's like you knew you were familiar with her face, but you didn't know why.
Why do I have chills because of this? I don't know. I had no clue. It's like you just disconnect and you go, oh, that's Jenny. That's the girl from Princess Bride because I forget her name. It's the first time I saw it was on Christmas this year. And then who did you say? And then in Unbreakable.
Yeah.
And I just separated those all three. Okay, never mind. She is an iconic actress.
Iconic.
She just fully embodied each role that she was in.
Yeah.
Okay, never mind. I take back all of it. She was amazing.
That's fantastic. I love that.
Oh my gosh.
Oh, that made me so happy. Yeah, I can't wait to get to the recast on this one as well. But while we're talking about the ones who were almost cast, so John Travolta, he ended up okay. He was at this point about to hit his renaissance, right?
Yeah,
So because Pulp Fiction was his next thing, and so he did okay after that and became had his own thing. Now I don't think he's Tom Hanks.
No.
You know what I mean? But this
None of those men are Tom Hanks. Well, I don't know. Bill Murray's pretty freaking awesome. Okay, he's still not Tom
Bill
Hanks,
Murray
though.
for this role.
He's still not Tom Hanks.
This would not have worked with Bill
It
Murray.
wouldn't have.
It would have been much more comedy with Bill Murray or Chevy Chase. I cannot imagine the seriousness at all with Chevy Chase in this.
Exactly. It would have been like National Lampoon's Forrest Gump. It would have there's no way to get it proper. That's why it was so hard for me to recast Forrest because I was like, good grief, Tom Hanks is Forrest Gump. He's still Forrest Gump. He's still Woody.
He is Abigail Breslin in Signs.
He is. You can't
she's
recast Abigail. You can't recast a 5-year-old that sees aliens. Like she is the perfect pick.
So-
Tom Hanks is the perfect one.
Did you see who the writer of the novel visualized?
No.
And I think he could have pulled it off.
Okay.
He could have pulled it off great. John Goodman. John Goodman,
John
I
Goodman?
think could have, yeah.
I want to see him at that time.
He that was when Roseanne, when he was playing the dad on Roseanne.
I cannot
the younger
see
version
that.
of himself. John Goodman has always been 45.
I mean, John,
but even then,
always. I feel like he's still Roseanne age.
Yeah.
Because I loved that show. It just made me, sorry, Mom, it made me feel like I was home. So I would put it on in the background. I loved it. John Goodman, yeah. He
He
I
could
see
have done
it.
the-
I have to get over a heftier Forrest Gump.
Yeah.
You know, that boy had some food. He ate some
Yeah.
ho-hos when he was little.
It's lots of shrimp, yeah. But John Goodman has lost 100 pounds how many times? You know what I mean? I think he
100
would have done
times.
it. I'm so proud of the guy just for his
You're right.
commitment to losing the weight.
That's
maybe
the other
not
thing.
keeping
It's
it off, but
he's one of those people like Jonah Hill. Like you'll always be fat to me. That's what is that off of? Is that off Just Friends? Yes. It's off Just Friends. Yes. You'll always be fat to me. Yeah. It is one of those things where after I've seen them in larger roles, it is hard to. John Goodman is one of those. So it takes me a second. But you're right, John Goodman. He has the drama and the comedy
and
the
authentic Southernness. You know what I mean? Which Tom Hanks
my gosh,
didn't, but he found.
His is like exactly. His is like KFC Southern. I feel like he could play the general.
It's Oh Brother Where Art Thou?
The Colonel.
I'm thinking of.
That's it. Yeah, that's it. He's the Colonel. I feel like he's just the Colonel in that one.
Yeah. Okay. I just kind of have some notes on this about just the different characters.
Okay.
Just stuff that I picked up on or just things about them. So let's start with Jenny. Weirdly enough, for me, Jenny is the most frustrating female character I have ever seen. And she like came by it honest. She was a victim of abuse.
Okay, yeah.
And you know, it's kind of hinted at in the movie, you know, that she was sexually abused by her father. That's where they're trying to get you without saying it.
Right.
But like every time, so because of that, or with that as her backdrop, you see that she's just always kind of chasing male affection while rejecting healthy male affection.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so every time Forrest tries to help her, and several times by like saving her from other abusive men in the moment that it's happening,
exactly,
with like a, you know what I mean? Like caught in the act type moments, she just yells at him and then eventually leaves, either immediately or soon thereafter. You know what I mean? She'll have maybe an opportunity for a tender, real moment with Forrest, and then she's out.
I liked her, not transition. I liked the timeline of Jenny, because if you notice when he is stepping in, her reaction to it gets less and less aggressive through the movie. He like wears her down. Like the very beginning, she's like, "What are you doing?" Yeah. Okay, fine, come inside and get warm and touch me inappropriately. And then
my favorite part of that is the roommate's face. I love that every time.
Oh man, I think never mind.
Yeah, no,
I'm not gonna say that. Okay. Just watch the movie. But her transition slowly moves into like she is very mad at him at the beginning when he breaks up the session in the car.
Session in the car.
Exactly. Yeah. And then later on,
also happens in Back to the Future. I know you haven't seen it, but there's a scene very similar to that in Back to the Future.
Oh man.
Yeah.
Oh well, maybe they're connected. There's the multiverse of that. I know.
It's almost like Zemeckis was like winking it Back to the Future a little bit in that spot.
Absolutely. So she later on in the movie, she's just like, she immediately just goes with him. She's like, well, the other guy is clearly wrong. Like it just becomes more and more tender.
But then she almost goes back with the guy.
She does every time. I mean, she's still a terrible character overall.
Just want to shake her shoulders.
You do, and you just want to pray for her and be like, come on, we can do better than this. You were talking about the fact that it was hinted at that she was abused. I realized that the way that everything bad was announced by Forrest was taught to him by his mom, his Southern mom. So he was like, well, her dad loved her. He used to kiss and touch on her all the time. And okay, so that was how that was announced. Then his great uncle or whatever it was, who was in the KKK, she was like, oh, they were crazy. They were insane. They wore sheets on their heads and on their horses. And it was, I thought back to how.
She does eventually say that was wrong though. Cause at first I was like,
yes. So, but she does it in the way that my Southern mom would do it. Would be like, well, your cousins are kind of crazy. They're off in a place where they get, rent, and it's prison. And it's just like, stuff like that. It was just the nice way of the Southern mom explaining it to Forrest. So then he explained all of these moments in I feel the nicest way possible to explain most of these horrible life events.
Sure. And it was not because he was trying to save anybody's feelings, but it was through the lens of his understanding, you know, as a guy with an IQ of 75.
Yeah.
And I have to say, by the way, as a kid watching this, I just assumed that he has a learning disability.
Right.
That's not the case. He just has a low IQ.
So we thought, is he, like now times they would be like, oh, he's on the spectrum.
Now times, yes. You would immediately go, he's on the spectrum. So maybe if this was made now, they would say he was autistic. But they make it very plain in the movie that it's not that he's disabled or differently abled in any way. It's that he just has a low IQ.
Right. He's extremely successful in everything he does.
Yeah.
Well, like the spectrum thing, I thought whenever he was in the military, how he was like, it was easy.
Yeah.
Because it was so structured.
Right,
And
yes.
usually that helps.
And
Right, he's
So-
just not smart on paper.
In the book, also there are many. I'll say several at least more things that he gets into, like these scenarios that he finds himself in, and in the same way that he's in the movie. But also he's played in the book as much more of a savant even than he was here, like with the gun and in the military and stuff. He's played where closer to almost like a Rain Man type thing in some ways, where he's like, it's like very clear that he's impaired by his low IQ, but in some things he's just instantly
excels.
Yeah.
I while we watched it, I wrote down everything. Well, to my knowledge, I'm sure I skipped something because he's so successful. Everything that he did in the movie, just in bullet point form.
I did too.
Did you really?
Yes. Okay,
oh,
go.
my word.
Let's go.
Okay, so Forrest
Do one at a
teaches.
time.
Okay.
Okay.
We'll say.
Yeah,
Did
we'll
you
see
do
where
it in
we wanna-
order?
Yeah,
Did
I
you
did
do
it in
it?
order,
Okay.
yeah.
So Forrest taught Elvis to dance.
Yes. He started on the Alabama football team.
He got into college by running from bullies. He
Okay.
got like signed
Okay.
So
into
that
college by
goes-
running from bullies.
Yeah. He met this kind of happens over the course of the movie, but he meets three different presidents:
Right.
Kennedy, Johnson, and Nixon.
All based on his experiences and what he's achieved.
And I love how he says, I went to the White House again.
Again.
Again. And he was on the broadcast announcement when they were desegregating a specific school. I
Oh, that's
forget,
right. Yeah, the Alabama. Yeah.
By accident.
Yes.
And then got to hand that nice lady her book.
Yeah.
And then he did his
right.
wave, his iconic wave.
So, he was a Vietnam veteran / war hero, awarded the Medal of Honor.
Right. He spoke at a peace rally in DC.
He did. He was a ping pong Olympic champion.
And then that is why he met one of multiple presidents, but came from the ping pong.
Did they? Yeah, multiple.
I think so. At least two, right? Just one. Okay, I'm making it up. He met 1,000 presidents in this movie. So he met John Lennon.
Yes, and inspired John Lennon to write Imagine.
Right.
He gives him the idea.
I do
write
wish we
Imagine.
could know what he said at the speech. At the monument, because the guy's like,
That's
that
all
was
I've
great.
got to say about
So
that.
that's one of the things that this movie has been criticized for in more recent years. Is it kind of depends on who you ask. So some people say that this is a politically conservative movie. Like
Okay.
some people, this is the conservative publications and websites and stuff like this have this as one of the great quote unquote conservative movies. And then, but then some people say, no, this movie was too scared to say what it was.
Right.
That it didn't, that it actually, all these things happen, but it doesn't say anything. And that's characterized very acutely at the moment at the rally where they're like, they didn't have the nerve to let him actually say anything. So they pulled the plug and you have to kind of try and fill in the gap.
I can't see that as a conservative agenda because it's like, it shows him as the bad guy. The guy pulling the plugs won't let people talk, won't let people say, there's no freedom of speech. I feel like that clearly shows that it's not like a conservative movie.
Yeah, I think they say because of like sort of Forrest's conservative values, you know what I mean? That's what they kind of, but I think it's kind of one of those things that's in the eye of the beholder, right? Because you can also see this as an anti-war movie,
right?
You know, you could see it as a pro-war movie, you know what I mean? It just kind of is.
I feel like they
what
didn't state too much of what they felt, and I liked that. I like that it is up to the discretion of the viewer.
Yeah,
and then so. He is I don't know if whistleblower is the right thing, but he announced that Watergate was happening.
That's right. Yes. He turned them on to Watergate. Yes. He becomes a shrimp magnate.
Yes, he does. He starts Bubba Gump Shrimp Company. So like that's basically the same thing, but then then invests in Apple.
That's right. Early investor in a fruit company, which turns out to be Apple. He ran for 3+ years and leads a cult of runners behind him.
Right. And while doing so, invented the how do I say that? The crap happens.
Yes.
Ish happens bumper sticker.
Yes. And the smiley face.
And the smiley
Have a nice
face.
day
I love
t-shirt.
him for that. I love him for that. I love a good smiley face.
And he becomes a dad.
I have that one written down too. And then a millionaire.
Yes.
Less important as a dad.
Go-zillionaire.
Go-zillionaire. While he's mowing, he says go-zillionaire. Yeah,
that would be my life. If I was a go-zillionaire, I would mow for free.
mow.
Oh yeah,
she
enjoy
would.
it.
She absolutely would. She loves it. She actually had a game where she mowed on her phone. You still have it?
Yes.
Her two games are one where she colors. Okay, where I'll just see her clicking just randomly and coloring like paint by number on the phone, and a game where she mows. I have Pokemon Go.
It's just nice to relax.
Yeah, it is. Everybody has their thing. So Forrest Gump was very skilled.
Yeah.
He was very skilled. He might have only had a 75 IQ, but you know what? That didn't matter, which I loved about this movie. I will tell you, one of the 2 times I cried is when he meets little Forrest. And he was like, he has a dad named Forrest, which is super funny. But he looks at her and without saying anything, oh my gosh, it really got me. And he was like, is he smart? Or is he like, and then he points at himself and I went, oh Lord, I'm about to lose my mind. And I just started sobbing because I just feel like that. Like I'm not a dad, but I know that when I become a dad, I'm going to be like, you know what? Is this kid short like me?
Right.
Or is he tall?
Is he a short king?
He'll be a short king for sure. But I like anything that you don't want your kids to deal with what you've had to deal with. And when I saw that, I was like, oh man.
Yeah.
I was like, that got me.
I have in my notes that is the one moment in this movie that it connected with me as a viewer, is Forrest asking if Forrest Jr. is smart. Because so largely what happens in this movie is, I guess if there's any point to this movie, it is that Forrest Gump, despite his impairment, leads a successful life, right?
Absolutely.
If you had to boil it down to kind of one thing,
I think that's a much better summary than what we've read.
But until that moment, you don't really see that he is aware of it.
Right.
All this is happening, but he's pretty unaware that any of it is eventful at all.
Right. That one moment gave his character a much larger complexity for me, where I was like, oh, he was aware of this.
Yes.
But he is just like, well, I'm just going to keep going.
Right.
I did love that the military guy, the drill sergeant, was like, you're so smart. Like he kept yelling at him, how are you the smartest person?
I do. I love that. I loved Lieutenant Dan.
Yeah. But that moment.
Not
Lieutenant Dan. Okay, but
the drill
Lieutenant Dan,
sergeant.
sorry. I was thinking of the point where they're trying to hook up with some hookers, I think.
Yeah.
And he falls out of his wheelchair and he's like, don't ever call him stupid.
Yeah.
And
Right.
it is one of those where I was like, oh, I love him.
Nobody can pick on my brother but me.
There we go.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Yes,
exactly.
it is one of those moments.
But yeah, that moment for me, you see all Forrest's trauma come out and then kind of suck back in.
And then
you see it just for a second. That's the only time you see him kind of break that, he just has a steady demeanor through the whole movie. And then.
And just like, just to go ahead, because we're probably not going to go back to the other time I cried. It is definitely when he's over Jenny's grave and he's talking to her. And I was like, oh goodness. Because I just like, I do not a good thing where I put myself in that moment. And I was like, if I have to stand, which I won't. But if I put myself in the moment and I just went, I don't love this. And he's having to say goodbye while raising his child. So that is the other moment where I was like, and Whitney's like, are you crying? And I was like, yes. It's like when you start to sniff too much and the person you're watching it with is like, oh, they're for sure crying. Like I always try to sniff in movies when it's not a sad moment, especially when I'm in the theater. I was like, I cannot show emotion. So this was one of those moments where I was like, I don't care.
That's my favorite place to cry is in the theater.
In a theater. But you and your best friend, Kara, who I'm sure will be here at some point, you laugh.
We watched Marley and Me and cried so hard that we were like, why are we crying so hard? A fictional character looked at each other and then started laughing to where people were turning around thinking we were horrible people because we're laughing.
In the theater,
yes.
in Marley and Me in the theater.
It was so fulfilling, just all the spectrums of your emotions.
What is the movie that we watched together in college?
My Sister's Keeper.
Oh my gosh. I saw my peripheral vision. I saw them turning their head because it was the moment. Like terrible things are happening in My Sister's Keeper. And I said, don't look at me. I just said, do not look at me because I was like one of those cries.
Yes,
and I just said, do not look at me. It was before we were dating, I think. Maybe we were dating, but I was just like, do not turn your head to me in this movie. So it was the same kind of concept.
That's great. Okay, a couple more things I wanted to say just to go back to Jenny for a second, because she would be sort of the next. I should have started with Forrest. He's the lead character, but whatever. I just wanted to say that Jenny was frustrating. But so Jenny and Forrest, I think, are both heavily symbolized in this movie. They've never so Jenny is heavily symbolized by the bird, right? So Jenny from beginning to end is when the beginning of Jenny's journey. It's a bird flying, and that is sort of she's the free spirit. Right. She never comes to rest. She's always, whatever, right? She's riding on the wind, but purposefully, right? As opposed to Forrest, who is the feather, right? Forrest is at the beginning. We see the feather in the opening scene, and it comes to rest at him, and the feather cannot choose its own path. It's blown around by the wind, and that's largely what we see with Forrest, right? That he is just, this life is happening around him, and he's living through it. He's not necessarily in charge of it. You know what I mean? These things are just happening. He's running away from bullies and ends up starring on the Alabama football team. You know what I mean? It's like these things are all, and that's one of the things that I actually don't like about this, because it's so unbelievable. Like, you're trying to pretend to me like this is a real person that I'm supposed to
I think that's my
somehow
favorite
connect
part.
with, but it's like he backs into, it's just so unbelievable that one person, and I know it's not presented as real, but like he backs into so many amazing accomplishments. You know what I mean? It just takes me out. I just go, okay.
I think that's my favorite part of the movie. I just go, yeah, I can get with that.
But like, so you have that heavy symbolism for both of them. And then at the end, you have the last time that we see Jenny's character is when Forrest is talking to her at the gravesite. And as he's, as he's walking away, you see a flock of birds coming to rest in the tree. You know what I mean? And so that's like her resting place. She finally, finds home there. And she dies of an unnamed sickness.
Yeah.
Watching it, I assumed it was HIV/AIDS.
Right.
But apparently it's supposed to be hepatitis C.
Okay.
Which at that time was still kind of an unknown disease. We didn't know exactly what it was.
Yeah, Whitney was really afraid for both of the Forrests. Once she was like, if that's AIDS, she was like, this whole family may be going
that
down.
makes sense with the type of drugs that they showed.
Yeah. So, so apparently it's hepatitis C. And she did other stuff. She wanted to be a famous singer like Joan Baez. She, gets hired as a folk singing showgirl, and, all those things. But her big symbolic, I think, if she has a character arc, it changes with the scene of her listening to Freebird, where she goes out, she contemplates jumping off a bridge early in the movie, right? And then there's a scene where she almost jumps out the window of a building while Freebird is playing. And the moment for her, and I can't remember, I almost want to say she's looking in a mirror, but that might be just me mentally making that happen. But when it's getting to the lines in Freebird about, Lord help me, I can't change, this bird you cannot change, all that stuff. That's when her character sort of turns, and she decides she's going to take a little more charge of her life.
Right.
You know what I mean? And be, to sort of be in control of her own narrative, I think at that point. And so you kind of see, symbolic with her that it's Freebird and she's the bird, and it's Lord help me, I can't change. And she decides to change right there. And her arc is a little different after that.
Right.
It's not so victimized, after that. She kind of takes control of her own life. You have anything else on Jenny?
I don't. I did not go in depth with their character. I mean, I'll think of a few things, but I didn't go as in depth as you did on this part.
Lieutenant Dan, is a interesting character because at least he has something, right?
He does.
Somebody in his family fought and died in every American war. That was the legacy.
And it was all him in the recaps, which I loved.
Yes, the legacy of the Taylor family. And so that is what he expected. So when he's, at war and Forrest saves him, he's like, don't save me. It's my destiny to die. Like, this is what my family does. You know what I mean?
He's so mad about that for so long.
Yeah. And he holds that in, and it's part of it is, I'm sure, guilt. And part of it is, I don't know what the rest of it is, but it's just anger. Like, you denied me my destiny, which surely he didn't. Nobody wants to actually die, but he's like, okay, I have to live, but now I have to live with this disability. I have to live with this, impairment. And you kind of get the juxtaposition of like Forrest is living with impairment too.
Right.
It's a mental impairment, but he's like just chilling with it.
Yeah. He's thriving.
He's almost unaware of it.
Yes.
He's not, he is aware of it, but he lives his life as though it doesn't impede him at all, Yeah. Whereas Lieutenant Dan is angry and kind of uses his thing as not a crutch. It's not a crutch, but it's
literally,
it's an excuse for his life to suck.
Yeah. And I love that character. I love that character arc. I think he has a really great one. It's natural. I feel like it does make sense. You go into that where he just goes into heavy drinking and sadness. Yeah. And then he's like, okay, might as well do something. Might as well become a shrimp boat novice.
Right.
and then he's like, you know what? I'm going to get me some fake legs. And And was his wife Vietnamese and a Vietnamese wife?
Yeah, I believe so.
And he was like, I'm gonna, I mean, it was implied
It's the
based on,
implication.
yes.
Yeah.
So I like that he goes, okay, I'm going to be like Forrest. I'm going to just I'm going to let it work at the end.
I just love how whenever he meets them and he asks if they're twins, they both are truly so confused.
Yeah.
And I love it so much. We're what did he say? We're of no relation. Something like that.
Relation. Yeah, and he, of course, Lieutenant Dan has the showdown with God on the boat at sea. He's like, it's cursing at God. I remember watching this as a child, just being like, oh my goodness, no,
Right.
oh no. But and still, I watch this movie and go, the language, guys, come
The
on,
language. And I was like,
Especially in the
PG-13.
military parts. I'm like,
Yeah.
Right,
It's like,
right.
yeah.
I mean, it's always military. My dad, when I was high school, because my dad was a Marine, he was like, just be careful. Like some of his favorite movies are like, Full Metal Jacket. Yeah, you knew exactly what I was going to say. Yeah. It is like, and he's like, just, be careful when you watch it. Yeah. I was like, okay, got it. You get military, you're going to get 1,000 GDs just in a row.
Most of them come from him. But I thought it was funny how he was so adamant about taking care of your feet. I never noticed that before.
I didn't either until we watched it this time. I was like, okay. He was like, everything's about the feet. Make sure you take off your socks if they're wet, all that stuff. And then his just get, blown to pieces.
Yeah. But and you don't think when you're a kid about he's talking about like trench foot or whatever it's called, whatever. But yeah, so at least he has a respectable arc for me in this. And then of course you have Bubba, Benjamin Buford Blue.
Yep.
Who is just, it is cute. It's nice that Forrest gets a best buddy. You know what I mean? He gets somebody
a best good friend.
A best good friend. Because he is continually rejected. And the person that he really loves the most, other than his mama, being Jenny, is just never,
emotionally available.
Yeah. And with Bubba, it's just everything is all right there on the table. You know what I mean? And of course, why would we not be best friends? Yeah. And so they just do everything together, and then he makes Bubba the promise that he will run his shrimp business after if he doesn't make it, and of course he doesn't make it. And it's a sad moment. It is for sure. Vietnam sucked. I don't know what else to say.
It wasn't great. It was not a great time.
I enjoy when he talks about the different kind of rain.
Yes. So I did a little research on the rain because I was like, what's the thing about it raining for 4 months? He's like, one time it rained for 4 months. That was a real thing. It was called Operation Popeye. You're not going to believe this. It's called Operation Popeye. It was a military cloud seeding project carried out by the Air Force in the Vietnam War, where they would fly above the clouds and drop things in the clouds to make the clouds heavy and fill them up with precipitation so that it would rain.
Oh my
And their
gosh.
intention was to disrupt Vietnamese supply lines, make the roads impassable by keeping the rain just pouring down all the time.
What was it? What were the ecological not implications?
Yes.
What happened because of that?
Well, so basically they kind of did it in secret. Nobody found out until later.
Yeah.
So they just did it without consultation or from I can't remember if it was the EPA or but the, environmental voices were not told about this.
Of course.
They're just like, no, we're going to do this. And so they literally just changed the weather patterns over Vietnam, and it would just rain constantly, but it was a military tactic.
Wow.
Well, in the movie, when it stops, that's when it goes down.
Yeah, they get attacked immediately.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, man,
isn't
that is
wild?
crazy.
Just the fact that we, A, can do that, and B, did that, and C, I guess, still lost in Vietnam. Like we freaking changed the weather and we still lost.
I had no clue. I had no clue that happened. I didn't even know it was possible to even slightly change the weather.
Yeah. So apparently there are two ways to seed clouds. They can be seeded from above, from airplanes, helicopters, that kind of thing. And I can't remember exactly what it is they drop, but it's it changes the crystallization process inside the clouds and blah, 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 blah. And you can do it to make either rain or snow. And then they can also be seeded from the ground by shooting stuff up into the sky.
And they did this for 4 months.
Yeah, apparently. Yeah.
Good grief.
And sometimes it's done with electrical charges. They've tried different methods or whatever. Practically speaking, the good side of that coin would be if you can successfully do it to try and help crops and stuff like that.
But no, we're using it for war.
Yeah, we definitely always war first with
It's
us.
always war first.
I don't really understand. All right. I have a question. I don't know, and maybe we'll cut this from the episode because it's going to be a long one anyway. This is such a long movie and so much to it. But do you guys know the concept of a Mary Sue in movies?
No.
Okay, so a Mary Sue is a character, and maybe I should just read a little bit of this so I can say it plainly. But basically, this is what Wikipedia says. A Mary Sue is a character archetype in fiction, usually a young woman who is often portrayed as inexplicably competent across all domains, gifted with unique talents or powers, liked or respected by most other characters, unrealistically free of weaknesses, extremely attractive, innately virtuous, and or generally lacking meaningful character flaws. Okay? So characters who have been accused of being a Mary Sue. Okay? Rey from Star Wars. Okay.
Yeah.
It's people who sort of instantly pick up and are good at everything they try.
Right.
Instantly successful with no real reason to be. Okay. And sort of played as perfect, you know.
I could see that. Yeah.
Right. Okay.
She has a few flaws, but it's not like it's the dark side, but still.
Yeah, but so she, you know, people say, okay, Rey is a Mary Sue because she just picks up and all of a sudden she's got these Jedi skills and she's great with a lightsaber and blah, 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 right? And she's, you know, so my question is Forrest Gump a Mary Sue?
Is Forrest Gump, when you started it, I was like, oh yeah. I was like, maybe Jenny's a Mary Sue. And I was like, no, she's not. She has clear character flaws. Right. He does seem, I guess, on paper, he seems like a Mary Sue.
Like he does have, so he has this, you know, this handicap, if you want to call it that, of his low IQ, right? That is his challenge. But everything that he doesn't fail at anything through the entire movie. The only thing he fails at is a relationship with Jenny, and eventually that comes around too.
Right.
But
Still works.
That's on her. You know what I mean? So I'm just curious if you guys listening, you let us know. And I know for some people, like the term itself is kind of offensive because it's usually weaponized toward women. Okay?
But this is our male Mary Sue.
Yeah, I'm talking about the male lead character.
Quality.
If it's Forrest, you know, if it's Forrest Gump.
Martin Sue.
There have been, like people have tried to make like a male version, like a Maury Sue. Was that one? I can't remember.
Sue.
Anyway, you know, different.
Maury and Mary. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Let's see. Favorite quotes. Of course, we talked about.
Oh my gosh, it's so quotable.
Life. We hear life is and life was, right? So he says, Mama always says life was like, Mama always said life was like a box of chocolates. Right. But when Mama actually says it, she says life is like a box of chocolates. I think my favorite one is when he says, just then something bit me. And he goes, something bit me.
I love, that is one of my favorite things in movies where the narrator will say something, and the narrator being Tom Hanks in this, and then going straight into the same character saying it.
Yes.
Absolutely love it.
That was mine. And then whenever it says, everybody said that was $1 million wound, but the Army must have kept that money because I didn't see a nickel of it. I was like, oh my God.
It's so good.
It's so quotable.
My favorite. Go ahead.
And you see him like think about it before he pulls his pants down to show the president his butt, because he literally was like,
but
you see it in his eyes.
There's
he's
excitement.
Like,
he just goes, absolutely. I'm going to drop trowel right here in front of the president. And the president's so pleased, as he should be.
Buttocks.
My favorite of the whole one, I think it's of the whole movie. I think it's Lieutenant Dan. He goes, have you found Jesus yet, Gump? He goes, I didn't know I was supposed to be looking for him, sir. That is my favorite of the movie.
And he kind of gets a chuckle out of Lieutenant Dan for that. Like, you know, like the bitter Lieutenant Dan, he's about to talk about, you know, that's all at the VA, everybody's talking about they found Jesus and blah, blah, blah. Yeah. He's getting ready to tirade, and Forrest catches him off guard with that response.
A little bit of a chuckle.
That. And then, of course, you have like, Lieutenant Dan, ice cream, you know.
And then there's Run, Forrest, Run.
Yeah,
all of them. There's like, there's
he
hundreds.
says, I'm sorry I had a fight in your Black Panther party. Yeah.
Love it. And they're all just like, I just think he's such a redeeming character that everyone's like, all right, yeah.
And how when he yells Happy New Year to Lieutenant Dan and he's just not having it in the bar. Yes. And I do like whenever she's trying to make out with him and he just says, she tastes like cigarettes.
Cigarettes.
Oh my gosh. I have a few more notes about the movie, and then we're going to get into the recast.
I can't wait.
If this movie were made right now, it would be about events taking place in the early to mid 90s through the early 2010s. Forrest would have experienced 9/11, met Presidents Clinton and Bush. He would have probably stopped Y2K from happening.
Okay.
Like, you know,
like he is the reason. Yeah.
Yeah, like he would have, been the, he trips over a computer wire and it stops Y2K from actually happening or something like that. I was trying to think of some of the other major events that Forrest would have, taken part of.
Was Afghanistan that time?
He would have been either Afghanistan, Iraq. Yeah,
he would have been the reason that Janet Jackson had had a nip slip at the Super Bowl. He absolutely something would have happened for him to be there. He would have been playing in the Super Bowl, and he would have been the reason.
Yes, that's right. Oh, that's so funny. Let's see. The novel the movie is based on has Forrest Gump growing up in Mobile, Alabama, which is a coastal town in southern Alabama. But the movie uses the fictionalized Greenbow, Alabama.
I love it.
And it was all filmed in Georgia and South Carolina.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yes. Yeah. Even the Vietnamese parts were in South Carolina, which I was like, I get
state
it.
parks and stuff like that.
Yeah. Yeah. I when I was in the Philippines, I was like, everything looks like Forrest Gump. It looks like, the Philippines close to Vietnam, but it was shocking. It was shocking that those scenes, and you assume like the mountains in the distance and the specific type of palm trees and like bog area type things, you assume that's not South Carolina, but they did really good with it.
I assume that some of the far background elements are digitized in somehow.
Yeah. They had, it's like I keep thinking, they didn't have CGI in 94, but they, CGI'd all of these moments.
Yeah. And then Bayou La Batre is real. And is part of the shrimping industry, like steeped in the shrimping industry, which is kind of cool.
I love it. I love it when they'll just be so honest, and maybe not honest and open, but when movies are like, this just makes sense. Let's just put it where the shrimp capital is. Mm-hmm. I love that.
Yeah. In the first scene, excuse me, I just thought this was a funny thing. In the first scene where we see young Forrest as an adult, we first see Tom Hanks. He's getting chased by the bullies in their truck, right? They're chasing him down in a truck, and Jenny says, "Run, Forrest, run." At the first time it happens as an older guy. He turns the corner, and he runs out of frame, and he is at maximum 10 feet in front of that truck, right? And then they immediately pan the camera around the corner, and he is a half acre ahead of the guys in the truck.
That's one of my favorite things. I think that's so funny. I think it is so fun. I'm just like
that fast.
Yes, just that turn of the camera, and that's the magic of what it is. Like surely he ran off screen and someone else is 50 feet ahead of them and he's running. I love that. I think that is the best form of comedy.
Did you see?
Oh, go ahead.
Go ahead.
I took from that, who are these children's parents? Right. How were they raised to think you could just run over a human being?
Yes.
It was the South. A lot of people in the South felt like they were in charge of a lot of other people.
Still do, man.
Yeah.
We gotta do better, you guys. Did you see who his stunt double was?
Oh.
It was his brother.
Oh, yes. I saw that. No one else could keep up with the intensity of the runs.
Really?
Yes. His brother was he can do it, but there was so much running that was a vital point. Okay, I don't know why. I just knew his brother was the stunt double for the running, just because no one else could really keep up with it. So his brother was the stunt double.
The guy who runs up behind Forrest when he's on his 3-year run and his first running disciple, you know what I mean?
Oh,
he was dude, I get it.
Is it that college student?
Yeah, yes. College student. Do you know who that is?
No.
It's Jeremy Piven.
Who's Jeremy Piven? Or what is he?
He was on Entourage. You definitely know him if you see him.
Right.
I'm trying to think of what else, but his kind of most famous thing is Entourage. But he's got a face that you'll know when we see it.
The producer's showing. Okay, Whitney gasped. Yeah, Let me see it.
Yeah.
Oh, yes. Okay, that took me a second because his glasses.
He's very young. Man,
I would not have known that was him.
I just happened to. I was like, I think that's Jeremy Piven, and then I looked him up, and sure enough, that's him. There was a planned sequel for Forrest Gump.
Oh my!
Screenplay for the sequel was written by Eric Roth, who wrote Forrest Gump, the movie, the screenplay, in 2001. It is based on the original novel sequel, which is called Gump and Co., written by Winston Groom, the writer of the original novel, in 1995. Roth's script begins with Forrest sitting on a bench waiting for his son to return home from school. So that's the last thing we see in the movie, After the September 11th attacks, Roth, Zemeckis, and Hanks decided the story was no longer relevant. In March 2007, however, it was reported Paramount Pictures took another look at the screenplay. This is all from Wikipedia. On the first page of the sequel novel, Forrest Gump tells readers, "Don't ever let nobody make a movie of your life story."
Okay, that's pretty good. What you just did.
Thank you.
I was
appreciate
excited
it.
about that.
And whether they get it right or wrong, it doesn't matter. Anyway,
That was good, Rob.
That's
thank
better.
you.
I can't do
appreciate
that accent.
That's my first successful impression of our podcast.
Okay, well, it was great.
The first chapter of the book suggests the real life events surrounding the film have been incorporated into Forrest's storyline. So it's about him becoming, made a person of interest because they made a movie about his life.
Right.
So it's sort of like this meta narrative you have with him. During the course of the sequel novel, Gump runs into Tom Hanks, and at the end of the novel in the film's release, includes Gump going on the David Letterman show and attending the Academy Awards.
Yeah, I love that. I mean, I don't think it would be as successful as Forrest Gump. The second movie rarely is until you get to like Sister Act 2 and things like that. But that would have been awesome.
Yeah.
I have a few notes.
Okay.
Based on Lieutenant Dan's character, Gary Sinise started, where was it at? Inspired by Lieutenant Dan Taylor, the military veteran character he played in the movie. Gary Sinise co-founded a rock and roll cover band during the mid-2000s called the Lieutenant Dan Band, has raised over 30 million. Oh, it's over 30 million per year.
What?
And has 12. Yeah. So he now has basically a whole foundation for injured war veterans.
Yeah.
And they have 12 private jets, which they fly these veterans and sick children everywhere. And
Good
he's
old
helping
Dan.
out a lot. Yeah, he's helping out a lot. Gary Sinise is helping out a lot of veterans.
So some good came out of this movie.
It really did. It really did. Even for you. And 33 Bubba Gump shrimp co's came out of this movie as
it's
well.
true. They actually went
Have you
and
ever
did
been
the
to one?
restaurant. I've been once, yeah.
Which
It's
one?
good. I think it's probably Pigeon Forge. Is there one in Pigeon
Mine's the
Forge?
Pigeon
Gatlinburg?
Forge Bubba Gump. I think, and then I maybe have been to the one in Destin, which that's
I
terrible.
think I read somewhere where
No, I don't know if
it
there's
was
one in
the
Destin.
first restaurant to be based on a movie.
Oh,
Or something
wow.
like that.
I mean, I guess
and
that makes
it
sense.
started in California.
Yeah. Okay. Well, that's surprising. I would have assumed Alabama,
Yeah,
maybe
Louisiana.
But yeah, that seems like a Gulf Shores type treasure. But yeah, there's 33 of them, which that actually surprised me. I thought there'd be far more.
Yeah.
I don't know why. I thought more than 33.
Slide up to the snack bar. All right, it's time once again for the often imitated, never duplicated, the recast. Let's get into the recast segment. We're going to make this movie right now in 2023. Who are we putting in the most important roles in the movie? Let's flip a coin. Let's flip a coin to see who goes first. Alexa, flip a coin. I'll take heads. You take tails.
Okay.
Okay. You got tails.
All right, tails. Zeke,
It's
you go
me.
first.
Let's start with least important.
Okay.
Maybe not least important. Do you want to go back and
No,
forth?
no, go for it. Yeah.
Okay, so least important, Miss Gump. I know that sounds bad,
yeah,
but
Forrest's mom.
Is her first name ever mentioned?
I don't think so.
I don't know that even in the casting it was Miss Gump. So I looked into that. Okay, so originally it's Sally Field. Love Sally Field. There was only one person that I thought on all of these. They're basically, well, this one maybe never mind. Some of these I haven't seen the emotional range, but I'm believing that they have the emotional range for it.
Because that's what we trusted Tom Hanks with.
Exactly.
With this
And
movie.
he did it. Helena Bonham Carter.
I almost cast her.
Did you really?
Yes, she was my second.
Oh, she's one of my favorite actresses of all time. I want to say Helena Bonham Carter.
Yeah,
okay.
Helena, yeah.
I immediately, like when you have to say something out loud, you're like, that's not right.
Yes, as evidenced earlier with Henry Cavill.
Yes. Helena Bonham Carter, I think, has the emotional range. She can look old. Yeah. She can look like a decrepit witch. Sally Field never got there, but she can look old. She has she's pretty enough to, I don't know, sleep with a principal to get a kid into school. She just has I think she has the emotional range. We've seen it in several of her films. Yeah. So I think Helena Bonham Carter.
I remember watching that as a kid and I didn't have a clue what.
Didn't understand.
No,
and then you're like, why is Forrest making donkey noises?
Which I love. I love that he does that. I'm like, there you go.
Yeah, that's great. She was she was my choice until I thought about who my choice really was.
Who's your choice?
I aimed for some people who I felt like could be authentically Southern.
Okay.
And so because one of my pet peeves is people doing bad Southern accents. It's just one of those things that we hear all the time, and so we know when somebody doesn't have it. You know what I mean? And I'm sure it irritates British people to no end.
Absolutely.
Or, not so bad when if I hear a person who I know is British, they're doing an American accent, and I hear it slip. It's not whatever. It's fine.
Endearing.
But Southern is a different thing. You know what I mean? So Forrest's mom could definitely be authentically Southern, and I think she has that. I mean, you could call her, I guess, a modern day sort of equivalent to Sally Field. I think Sandra Bullock is my choice for Forrest's mom.
I could see that work.
It's a different kind of, I think a different kind of character, maybe not a different kind of character, but she's a different feel of an actress because so much of her career she's been played as hot. Right.
Yeah.
Like she's, played hot roles, and Sally Field, that was never not much her thing after her early career. But I think Sandra Bullock could do it. If you think of like The Blind Side, but 20 years later, you know what I mean? That Sandra Bullock.
It's just that side of The Blind Side.
Yeah.
I kind of thought about, I don't know why, Gina Davis or Sigourney Weaver. Those were the two that I was thinking of. They can't really be Southern. I was trying to think, have I seen them old somewhere?
I think
maybe
Gina Davis could probably do Southern.
I
think she
love
could do
Gina
it.
Davis. Gina Davis is a real man's man. I love her. She has the jawline I wish I had. But I could see her in this.
But maybe it's because of, oh no, A League of Their Own. I think that might be why I put them
For
together.
sure. Also, if I'm going to watch any baseball movie, that'll be the one.
A League of Their Own? Okay. Great.
Okay, next on the list, I would say the second least important of the top 5 is Bubba Blue. Okay, played by, I'm going to let you say it, McKelty Williamson. That is
Williamson. Okay.
That is how I would say his name.
Okay. I don't know who that is.
Or
What's
Michael
he in?
No. I'm saying that's who played Bubba
I'm sorry,
Blue.
that was the actor.
McKelty Williamson, I think, is how you would say that.
Yes, I believe so. Yes.
Okay, so I gender bent this one.
Okay.
This is a hard role to fill. It's got to be someone that can play into some stereotypes. It's got to be someone who values that they can play into that, but also bring a beauty to it. Okay. So I gender bent this one to a comedian.
Okay.
Leslie Jones.
Okay.
She is just giant. Okay, so
man.
she is. I would gender bend this because now we're in modern times. There's going to be a lot of women in the army as well.
Women serving.
So she is. I imagine, and then I imagined my recast for Forrest Gump, who is much smaller than Tom Hanks, holding her, carrying her out of the, and she is she's over 6 feet tall,
which he didn't do. They had cables on him to
They
hold
had
him
cables
up.
up because he was too heavy, and I was like, I get that.
I was watching them do a look back or whatever, where they had the strings too tight, so he was way too high.
He was too easy
Tom
to
Hanks
carry.
was like, that doesn't look
feel
good.
right, yeah.
You know?
So I recast it and gender bent it as Leslie Jones because I feel like she could bring the humor into it, but also I'm trusting that she can carry through in the same way that we trusted Tom Hanks could carry through with this.
Yeah. Okay. That's great. I went with, partially because I just think he could do it and do it well, and partially because I just want to see this guy in as many movies as possible. I went with Jonathan Majors, who is
is he Thanos? Not Thanos. What is it?
Yes, he's Kang.
Kang.
Yes, and he's in the new.
Oh man,
he's in the new Creed movie.
He has the lips for this. He said, "What's wrong with your bottom lip?" Is that what he says?
Well, he did that on purpose. That's
I know
not
he
what
did.
his
I
lips
know he
look
did it
like.
on purpose, but I think Kang has some big lips.
Yeah,
That would have worked.
So yeah, I think he would be great, and I want to see him. I like him a lot.
He's
and I think
such a
he'd be
good
great.
actor.
Yeah, I can't wait for his career. I feel like he's in a whole bunch right now.
He is.
He's just taking off.
Did you recast this one?
Jonathan Majors.
I didn't recast this one, but I was trying to look at what movie we just watched him in.
And it was surprising. Is it the one where
Netflix.
he's basically
it's a Western?
Yeah, him,
Hang on, I gotta find
him and several black actors have they're basically it's basically the Wild Wild West.
Yeah.
And it has what's her name, Regina, and she's
The Harder
amazing.
They Fall.
Regina Bell.
It's good.
It
was really good.
Goodness, it's got some language, okay?
Yeah.
But it's one of those that you're like, how much are you willing to put up with? I would put up with all of it. I put up with double what it had.
And he's also in Lovecraft Country. If anybody's watched that on streaming, Lovecraft Country, and he's in some movie that's where he's like a fighter pilot. I can't think of what it is. It's a new one. Anyway,
it's fantastic.
I like him.
Devotion.
Is Idris Elba the bad guy in that movie? Oh man, that's such a good movie.
Idris
Western.
Elba. I would recast Idris Elba as the drill sergeant. That was yelling.
If Idris Elba is in a Western. I'm going to watch it.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm going to watch it. Every time I hit my funny bone, by the way, I say I hit my Idris Elba.
Oh my gosh.
It's awful. That's my dad joke. Okay.
Right.
I think that's fantastic.
Thank you. All right, moving on. So
Okay.
I guess we're at Lieutenant Dan.
Yeah, that makes sense for the next one. Okay, so Gary Sinise played Lieutenant Dan, and he did it beautifully. The only person that I think has that gruff nature, can do comedy. The only person I could think of is Jeremy Renner.
Okay.
Yeah, I think Jeremy Renner could have done that really well. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
a little bit of comedy. He can be real. He can be a drunk cripple very easily. I just think he could do that really,
And he could
really well.
Yeah, he could definitely bring the serious military. I like that choice a lot.
Thank you.
I didn't go too far away from that. I went with Oscar Isaac.
I love Oscar Isaac.
I know, right?
He's the best.
I watch him in anything. He's so good, and I feel like he could do that gruff.
Yeah.
and I feel like he is drawn to parts that have a redemptive arc, kind of like that.
Yes.
You know what I mean? So did you know he was the lead singer of a Christian ska band?
I think I heard that, but I
Maybe we
brushed it
did.
out of my memory, and I don't know why, because that is incredible.
Yeah. Anyway, but I think he could crush as Lieutenant Dan.
I picked 3 different people.
Okay.
Well, because I was trying to think and I couldn't think. So some of them I'm not proud of, but
That's the groundbreaking CGI. For this version, they're going to composite
All
these
three.
three people into a digital actor.
well, I was thinking of the gruffness, but then the nicest, and I was probably thinking of the Hunger Games, but I thought Woody Harrelson would be.
Okay.
Yeah,
sure.
that's a
Ish.
great pick.
Yeah.
I love Woody Harrelson.
And then I thought of the gruffness part. Well, now I'm embarrassed. I don't think it's good.
No,
Say
it's
it,
too
say
late.
Billy Bob Thornton,
Okay.
because
sure.
he could be gruff.
Yeah.
But
Okay.
I
only heard Bob
Don't think
Thornton.
I've
I
ever
was like,
seen
I have
him.
no clue who that is.
I don't think I've ever seen him in anything.
You don't know who Billy Bob Thornton
No,
is?
no, I thought you just said Bob Thornton, and I was like, is that a chicken company? I don't know. It just sounded Billy Bob.
What is it? Tim
Tim
Hortons?
Hortons.
Tim Hortons. That's it. That's it.
This episode is brought to you by Bob Thornton's.
Chicken and shrimp. Okay, sorry, Billy Bob Thornton. And
I think
what is your
that's
third
it,
one?
because I had Kurt Russell, and I think that won't
Okay,
work.
yeah.
I don't think that would work.
I think Billy Bob might be a little old now
Yeah,
to
that's
be a lieutenant.
so. Woody Harrelson.
And I
let's say.
thought of
Woody
something
Harrelson's great.
so offensive that I just remembered. It's not actually that offensive. I mean, they've already done it. Bubba Blue. Okay, I thought my first thing before I cast him as Leslie Jones, the female comedian, I just thought, why don't we just put Robert Downey Jr. when he was in Tropic Thunder?
No.
And I'm not a fan of it. Apparently, there weren't too many critics on his role for that, though. So for that,
Yeah, I was shocked that he didn't
shocked.
get more.
How can you do
But
like blackface in modern day? I don't know, but he has a lot of fans, and a lot of fans in that community that were just all about it.
I guess part of it had to have been that was the joke.
Yeah,
Right? That
They're like, this is
he was
clearly
a
stupid.
guy. He's an actor playing it's a meta, right? Because it's not just he's an actor in blackface. It's that he's an actor playing an actor who does a role in blackface.
Right,
So that
right.
has to be the only way it's excusable.
it's just one of those things that we look past that I go, how as a society where we pick apart everything have we looked past this? But we
Yeah.
did.
Well, I think it definitely had to be somebody of color, because that was the whole point. It was
Has
the
to be.
time.
His
'Cause
role.
him
Yes.
being having him as his good best friend.
Yeah, his
that was
role-
a big deal.
Yeah, it has to be recast of someone with color.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, you can't have a white Bubba.
No,
way.
no, that's not gonna
Gosh,
work.
I don't
That's
even
just
like.
scary.
There's no white Bubbas that I like.
No,
I don't
sorry
like.
if you're out there and your name's Bubba. Please comment. Please tell us you're a good person. I'm sure you are. If you're listening to this, you're a good person.
Prove to us your worth
to
as a
us.
human being, please. All right, moving on to Jenny.
Yes.
Who you got?
I am so proud of this. I feel like this is Oscar level.
Isaac.
Okay.
Oh,
Oscar Isaac. Oscar Isaac as Jenny. I feel like this is the best one of my pick,
Okay,
I think.
all right.
Okay. Zendaya. She can play a crack addict. She's pretty. She can sing. I think that she has the full range to be Jenny. I think she has the ability to like encompass that she was abused as a child. She could give off some Southern roots. It would also bring another layer to it that he was in love with a woman of color.
Yeah.
So I liked the idea of all of this. I like Zendaya. I thought she was the perfect pick for this. Now your faces are proving that maybe I didn't get it right on the. I'm still sticking to it. I think Zendaya.
It's not something that initially I just went, yeah.
Yeah,
You know
yeah.
what I mean? But Zendaya is another one of those that I'll watch her in anything.
anything. She's fantastic,
great.
except Euphoria, because I'm pretty sure it's foul. But I want to watch it for Zendaya.
Right.
Yes.
Okay. I could get there for sure. I would
Okay.
not be mad if Jenny was recast as Zendaya. I tried so hard. Jenny is like such a vibe, right? That like, so I was just
Jenny
sort
is
of
a vibe.
laser focused on matching that vibe with somebody. And so Zendaya was kind of the opposite of, I don't know. Zendaya just wasn't on that spectrum for me. So to hear you say that kind of threw me. So I went with Dakota Fanning.
Oh,
Jenny.
man. Yeah. Current day Dakota Fanning could smash that.
And so she's still, she is, I think, roughly the same age that Robin Wright was. She was like 25, 27, something like that at the time. And Dakota Fanning is right there. The only challenge I think for her might be playing older Jenny, as older, but they didn't do anything really with Robin Wright except maybe
They didn't. They
change
just
her
gave her the
hair.
mom haircut.
Yeah, you
and
just
gave
sort
her a
of-
waitress outfit, and she was good to go.
Yeah, you just kind of go with it. So based on that, I think Dakota Fanning, I think she would be.
That's fantastic.
I thought of Julia Roberts, like back in her Pretty Woman days,
So they
because she
so
was
for the
making
first
bad
half of the movie.
decisions. You know,
So for the first half of the movie, she'd probably have to be a little CGI'd.
Right. They
Okay.
would have to de-age her.
Because this is current day.
Oh, okay. No, I'm
it's
just
all right.
I'm in and out of time here. I'm just thinking
Whitney
different.
plays by her own rules. No, just see. Hey, in the same realm as Forrest Gump, let's just CGI the whole first half and let her get, and then like maybe just give her a little makeup for the oldest scenes.
Yeah.
Right in the middle, though. Yes.
Yeah.
Wait.
Yeah, Julia
Yes.
Roberts.
Okay. Yeah. It's good to go. I immediately recast her as Miss Gump in my head just now, and I was like, wait a second, she doesn't get that old. Never mind. Yeah, I think it would work in the same form. CGI, it would work.
I think so. Yeah, they'd de-age her.
Now we've got
All right, let's do it. This is the big
Forrest
challenge.
Gump. This is the one I'm the least confident in. It is played by Tom Hanks, and he did a masterful job of this movie. The only person that I think, and I researched.
So excited.
The only person I think that could do this emotional range, because it's hinted with a little bit of funny. Okay,
Yeah.
it is a comedy. A dramedy of some kind. I think Daniel Radcliffe, because for a whole movie he played a corpse. Was it called? What is it called? What is the?
Oh gosh,
It's called when someone is good at everything. They are
a Mary Sue.
no, right. Bring it back. I'm Mary Sue, but they a Swiss Army. It's Swiss Army Man.
Swiss Army
That's
Man.
what it is.
Yeah.
So he is literally I think he has. I've not seen it, and I really want to. Whitney thinks it's a weird movie, so it'll be a me watch alone
It
kind of
freaks
movie.
me out. I can't look at him
but
thinking
he's
he's
basically
dead.
a corpse the whole movie. So I go, he has the emotional range to play someone who maybe is not all there in the intelligence range, but also a little funny. And I think the one scene out of Harry Potter that made me think this was possible is when he said pincers, and he does that little thing because he's like drunk in Harry Potter. He's not drunk, but he's like that. It made me think he has the comedy chops to play this. I think Daniel Radcliffe has the ability to do this.
I mean, he's definitely got comedic. He played Weird Al in the Weird Al
You're
movie.
right.
that
You're
just came
right.
out
Have
last
you
year.
have you seen that
Oh,
yet?
yeah, it's great. He's great in it.
Okay, so he did good in it.
Yeah.
So he can do the comedy.
he's very funny.
Okay,
Yeah,
so
yeah.
I think Daniel Radcliffe, I'm the least proud of that pick.
Okay.
But I still stand by it.
Okay, all right. I have a couple, but my first choice, I'm still going to stick with him as my pick. But I'll give you my alternate after you do yours in case I step on yours.
Okay.
But my choice, I think, could play authentically Southern enough, at least to the degree that Tom Hanks did.
Yeah.
He's from California, I think, but he could. But I think he could pull it off. Definitely funny. Definitely nails the drama. He's the right age, and I kind of think the right sort of demeanor. And you could say he's like a modern day younger Tom Hanks. I think you could give him that title ish. I'm going to go with Joseph Gordon-Levitt as Forrest Gump.
Man, yeah. The demeanor. He's got small eyes. I don't know how else to explain it. But other than that,
He does have small eyes, like
I think
kind of squinty eyes.
It is like they're just small and just like so circular. I don't know as eyes normally are, but I think that's a great pick.
Though, with that in mind, I just thought of this when you said that. Imagine him as Haley Joel Osment's dad.
Oh man, it works.
It totally. The face is like
every time this comes out. I love Haley Joel Osment. Haley Joel Osment. I love him so much. So as soon as he came on, I was like, I completely forgot he was the son.
I did too.
But it just, oh my gosh, I love him. And it tracks to have him as his father.
Yeah.
It would have worked.
Really
it would have worked.
Okay, producer Whitney, who you
Okay,
got?
I said Leonardo DiCaprio because I'm thinking of him in What's Eating Gilbert Grape. And so, you know,
He
it's
has
a little
emotional
different,
range to
but-
play different. Now that's not an IQ, but yes, I think he could do that.
That's solid. Okay.
What's your second pick, Rob?
My second choice was Barry Keoghan.
I have no clue.
You'll
who that
know
is.
his face. You'll know his face for sure.
Barry Keoghan.
Yeah, Keoghan. Barry Keoghan.
Oh man, yes.
Right?
He's in the Eternals, right? He is good in almost everything, and I could see that gruff, Southern but nice kind of thing with that. I love that.
He's
pick.
probably a little young, but because I'm not sure if he's even 30. And Tom Hanks was like 35-ish, I think, when he did Forrest Gump.
I think I didn't know his name. He is probably one of my new favorite actors. I know he's been around for a while, but man, he's very good.
Yeah, he's in something right now that's blowing up, and I can't think of what it is. It's on one of the streaming services. It's like an Irish thing.
Banshees of
Yes, the Banshees of
Inisherin. I'm sorry.
There you go. The Banshees
sorry
of
to all
Ed
of our
Sheeran.
Irish listeners. The Banshees of Ed Sheeran.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And he played, if you've seen the Batman, he played the Joker essentially in the Batman. Like when the Riddler finds a friend in the jail, was that in a post credits scene?
I don't remember
so.
that.
It's at the
I think
very
so.
end, whether it's post credits or not, but mid credits or something. But anyway, he finds a friend that is assumed to be the Joker, and that's
Right.
I assume we're going to see as the Joker at some point now.
Man, I hope so. He's such a great actor.
But all right, there you have it. There's our recast official of Forrest Gump. We need to know what you're thinking out there. Send us a message on Instagram at Cinema Snack Bar, or you can go to cinemasnackbar.com and leave us a message there and let us know where we got it right, where we got it dreadfully wrong, and how you would rectify the situation.
Absolutely.
I want to know who your Forrest Gump would be. I want to know who your Bubba Gump would be, or your Bubba Blue.
Bubba Blue.
Who your Bubba
Bubba
Blue.
Gump. It just rolls off the tongue,
does, it does.
at this point. So yeah, let us know. Okay, that does it for the recast, and now it's time to get to the nitty gritty. We've made some homemade chocolate. Let's go.
Okay, we've attempted to make some homemade chocolate.
We're about to
We
find out.
made it. It just may not be the best.
You're
That
right.
is
You're
correct.
right. We taste tested it a couple times, and it might have been the most bitter dark chocolate I've ever had. So we're going to see if we milked it up enough.
That's right. So here we go. Right after the jump, we're going to be back here, and we're going to try this chocolate concoction. Slide up to the snack bar. All right, kids, it's time. So here's what we've done today. Proving that life is like a box of chocolates and you never know what you're going to get. We made could be the worst chocolate of all time. We're about to find out.
We don't know like taste wise, but texture wise, we are on the verge of fudge.
Yes, that's what we've come out with. So I'll walk you through the process, and then we'll kind of talk about what happened on our end and how you might do things differently and learn from our misadventures. The ingredient list is pretty simple. You need some cocoa butter or cacao butter. They are functionally
Could have been the reason.
the same.
Okay, yeah.
But the oh my gosh, it's a little different. The flavor profile is kind of different or whatever. But it's like little. You can find little like discs, or you might even find cacao, what they call nibs, and that's what your main melting is going to come from. So it's basically unsweetened, completely. Like, I don't care if you've had like 100% dark chocolate. It's not that. It's worse than that.
It is worse. It tastes like we tried some a little earlier, and it tastes like dirt coffee.
Yeah.
Is what it. Yeah.
It was like nothing for a second, and then just the worst dirt coffee grounds.
I just want to know who tasted that and thought, I'm going to revolutionize the world of candy with this plant.
Yeah, it's like you can whatever genius it is, they just taste something and they find something to go, okay, what happens if we heat it, fry it, or sweeten it?
Yep.
You know what I mean? And
It made it wonderful. I am now a huge fan of chocolate, but what we made today may not have been that.
yeah. So you're gonna need some cacao butter or cocoa butter. And make sure it's food grade. You need some dry milk powder, which is or just dry milk or powdered milk. They're all the same. Those things are all the same. You can use, if you want a dairy-free version, you can use coconut milk powder or soy milk powder. We went with just regular milk
Very
powder.
possible to make chocolate in a vegan way,
Yeah.
which I didn't realize. That's why I don't understand why it's so expensive to get vegan chocolate when I was on a huge vegan kick. And now I just go, this is easy. You could do this at home. So all my vegan friends, let's make that chocolate at home.
Right. You, the next thing you need is cacao powder or cocoa powder. This is pretty easy to find. Just make sure it's 100% cocoa or cacao. Again, the flavor profile is a little different, but functionally for the recipe's purposes, they're the same. A little bit of salt that really enhances the flavor and adds some depth, and sweetener. You can use, this says this is optional, but I do not see this as an option.
No, sweetener is not optional for this, even if it's minimal.
Yeah. So powdered sugar works great. Avoid liquid sweetener though, because it can seize up the chocolate in the cooking process and just, you don't want to brick your chocolate. Okay.
Yeah.
Although our chocolate maybe could have used a little bricking.
Yep.
So here's what we did. The other thing that this recipe doesn't tell you immediately that you're going to need is a kitchen scale. Okay.
Yeah.
And I think that's maybe where we went wrong, because we were sort of measuring these things, but then these are all dry measurements, and it's telling us very specific dry measurements. First, you melt the cacao butter in a double boiler. You're going to need a double boiler, which is, you can just use 2 pots to kind of serve the same purpose. You boil water in the bottom pot, and then it heats indirectly the top pot.
Which was very nice to watch. It's
Yeah,
aesthetically pleasing.
Using a real double boiler is a very pleasant process. Ours is glass, and so you kind of see all the what's going. Kind of feels like a laboratory.
Yeah,
when
it
you're,
does.
And so that melts gently the cacao butter. Once that's doing that, then you add kind of the other ingredients. You can sift them in, but we didn't sift them in. Maybe that was a problem.
We tried
Maybe
a little bit, but it's still I think we ran into our first problem when there was so much dry ingredients.
Yeah.
That it did not do well with the cocoa butter.
That's right.
So it became brownie texture pretty quick.
Yeah, and I think maybe some of where we ran into that problem because of the measurement. So we were trying to. I just did some quick research and found that allegedly that a dry ounce is equivalent to about 30 milliliters in a liquid cup measure. I now do not believe that to be necessarily accurate, because when we started mixing the ingredients, it just started turning into like cake batter, right? I mean, was that what you were doing the stirring? So
yeah, it was for sure. It was like the thickest brownie mixture I've ever experienced. So we added some powdered milk and water. So we made milk, and we added some milk to it. We added more of the cocoa butter, cacao butter. Mm-hmm. Just until it looked like chocolate.
Yeah. And another thing that we did, we started off with one of the new kind of whisks that's like circular and has other little circles in it. And it works great for some stuff. I don't think it worked for this because once we switched to a more traditional whisk, it was a much better. We started getting like liquefied chocolate look.
So a traditional metal whisk worked really well for this. That's the direction you need to take.
That may be coincidence, because by then we were trying to add other ingredients going, this is not going to work. We got to try something. We've wasted this whole, opportunity, but.
So we've made something.
Yeah.
I think this is the least successful cinema snack bar
for sure.
Make.
Yeah,
so
our recipe. Yeah.
Yes. Mm-hmm. This is the least successful cinema snack bar recipe that we have done.
We'll see what happens when we taste it. If we've realized we've just figured out how to make like little brownie snacks, I mean, I guess you can just make brownies from $1. So much easier. Right. But
this feels like brownie fudge. Like looking at it, it's got layers.
It even has
looks like a cosmic brownie.
Yeah, it does look like a cosmic brownie. Here's the other thing. If you want to have chocolate that you can kind of just have sitting out and that is crunchy like a chocolate bar, what you want to do is temper the chocolate. And this is probably part of the reason also that we have a softer thing here. When you're cooking the chocolate, you heat it to a certain level, and you can look up this process and I'll give you very exact processes, but you heat the chocolate up to like 105 degrees or so. Then you let it cool down to like 79, 80 degrees. And then you heat it back up just a few more degrees. And then you stick it in the fridge to let it sit and
then it will not melt at room temperature,
right.
Correct?
Then it doesn't soften, at room temperature. So as we have here, we know this is going to be kind of softer and chewier, than if you were just bite into a Hershey bar or whatever. But moment of truth. And so now Zeke is bolder than I. And so he was immediately like, we got to put some stuff in this. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Oh,
So-
we got some. So we got coconut chips in some of them. I love everything. It's like ice cream for me. I can't just do vanilla ice cream. Can't just do chocolate ice cream. It's got to have a crunch to it. We have some vanilla chips. Some coconut chips. I was thinking about vanilla. We've got pure vanilla just chipped up in them. We've got coconut chips in some of these. We've got pretzels in the other. And then some of my favorite is marzipan. I love marzipan in chocolate. So we've got that in some of them. And I've got some sprinkles on that one to add a little texture because that one's still chewy. So we've got some texture to this. So if it is the worst thing in the world, we're having chocolate ingredients over a pretzel, over coconut. Maybe it's still going to taste fine.
Yeah. And so what we ended up doing was, we added just tons and tons of varying other ingredients, just trying to liquidate the mixture that was going on. Because
it was thick. It was 3 C's maybe. It was the thickest.
Something deliciously unholy happening in that pan. And so, we just did everything we could to try and make it look like something that we felt was going to end up being chocolate. So I guess moment of truth.
It's time to dig in. Okay. It's time to dig in. Are we trying marzipan, coconut, or pretzel first?
Let's go.
Whitney literally has marzipan
it's already on
in
my
her hand.
spoon.
I'm taking a huge bite, and I hope it's not terrible.
Which one of these is
right here?
Okay,
either of those. So we are trying. I was trying to ASMR. Oh, Whitney's already in your mouth.
Okay.
Oh.
Oh my gosh. The what's it called? That's fudge. That is the darkest chocolate fudge I've ever eaten.
It's very fudgy.
The crunch was not from the chocolate. I wish it was. The crunch was from what I like to call sweet croutons, which are sprinkles. Okay, so the crunch was from the sprinkles. The marzipan tastes fine in this, but it's fudge.
Yeah.
It may not even be as set as fudge.
I don't think it is. It's like, it's sweet and it's pleasant, but
it's dark. There's some bitter to that.
Yeah, it's dark. It's like, all right.
It's not a chocolate bar though.
No.
Nope.
So I don't think we're going to call this a success. It doesn't taste bad.
It's not the worst failure.
If you're like, dude, I homemade this chocolate snack, like you'd be like, great. But just knowing what we were trying to make makes this feel like disappointment. It doesn't taste bad. It tastes good.
Yeah. It is it's very bitter. I would say it is darker than I anticipated this chocolate would taste.
Yeah.
I want the pretzel one because I think that's going to be. I think out of the successes, this might be the most successful.
Additional salt and a little crunch. We'll have. All right, so let's try.
Okay, pretzels.
Yeah. Just a little crunch.
Significantly better. It has also made the pretzels a little soft. Yeah.
Oh, all right. It's good. It's fine.
Well,
it's not like
I actually prefer the marzipan one.
But we're definitely not getting the reactions that we had when we tried our nachos or when we tried our candy apples.
Oh no, this is a letdown compared to that. Still fine.
Yeah.
I'm giving it a 4 or 5 so far.
Yeah. So, all right. That's okay. Last one would be our
coconut chips, which now I'm feeling like this has probably saturated them and they're going to be chewy.
Let's find out. Here we go.
They're chewy now. Yep.
Are they?
Yeah, they're normally crisp.
Oh,
crisp.
okay.
Yeah.
Flavor-wise, I think that's my favorite.
That coconut really does add something good.
And just a little bit of more solid texture. It does sort of feel like took fudge kind of before it was finished. Or like this feels like it feels like, so my wife makes this really rich. It's really rich homemade hot chocolate, and it comes from a concentrate that you basically make. It feels like a very thick version of that concentrate that if you drop this in some hot milk, you'd be good to go, and have yourself some delicious.
Maybe we should try
hot
that.
chocolate. Maybe, spin the rest of this into a positive with some hot cocoa.
I thought I loved the marzipan one, but just now I peeled off the chocolate and just basically ate the marzipan, and I was like, oh, okay, that's what I liked.
That's better.
Yeah, that was a good deal better. Well, so we failed at making chocolate bars, like crispy chocolate. We did not fail at making something that tasted chocolate.
It's true. The taste is fine. It tastes like chocolate.
Right.
It doesn't taste like the craziest, darkest chocolate, but it tastes
No.
like dark chocolate.
It is.
Which I think came from we used dark cocoa powder.
Okay.
So I'm sure that obviously plays into that, but we did milk it up with the
We
dry,
did.
dry milkness. So we've made some sort of weird hybrid, I don't know, thing here.
It's like it felt like a no-bake brownie mixed with what a chocolate bar would be.
Yes.
I definitely don't want to eat all of it.
No,
Right.
we're not going back for seconds. Like I had to, when we covered Nacho Libre, I had to stop eating the chips. I was
Right.
like, you know what? Let's not keep eating. With this, I'm like, okay, I'm good.
Yeah, exactly.
I've tasted what I've had to taste.
Which is for chocolate, that's really saying something.
It really is.
That really tells you the level of our chocolate.
It does, because I love some good chocolate. I want you all to tell us your success stories of making chocolate. Tell us where we went terribly wrong.
Yeah.
And you know what? Show us how it's done.
Yeah.
The chocolate that I just ate reminded me of a hairdryer.
The smell of a hairdryer?
I guess so.
Okay.
Oh, no.
I know what you mean. All right. Listen, if you guys want to help us get a kitchen scale so that this doesn't happen again, you can support the show. You can go on Patreon and throw some support behind the show and help us to be able to improve our processes here bit by bit and help us to, do some more things in the future as we continue with Cinema Snack Bar. It still was a lot of fun. It was a lot of fun to make. But I felt like if we were going to fail at one so far, it was probably this. Chocolate just feels ambitious to me.
Man, I thought this is the easiest thing in the world. We considered for a second doing shrimp, and I was like, oh man, we could ruin that. Looking back, shrimp would have been an easier idea.
Yeah, shrimp would have been a breeze. No
Yeah.
problem. But, I don't regret trying it.
I don't either.
I can say I made chocolate. I see now why people call themselves chocolatiers, right?
Oh yeah,
It feels
I just go, that seems pretentious, and now I go, that all makes so much sense.
Yeah.
Now I'm thinking if we did do chocolat, we're going to have to
chocolat.
do something else. There's got to be something else in that
If
movie.
we review Chocolat with Johnny Depp, we are going to, at that point, maybe bring on a chocolatier.
Yes, maybe that's what we should do. Get a local chocolatier and have them like tour the facility, have them show us in their space.
We have to.
what
a
they're
hot
actually
chocolatier
doing.
we could go to.
Yeah, we go to the
there
hot
we go.
chocolate, yeah.
We have to, because I want some decent chocolate. If we cover the chocolat, we're gonna have to get some decent chocolate.
Because what we've really done today is insult Nestle and Hershey and
Oh, Nestle Toulouse,
M&M
we're so
Mars.
sorry.
Yeah, like we live 30 miles from M&M Mars, and they would be so disappointed in what we've just done today. But you know what? I'm gonna give it to my kids, and they're gonna love it.
Will, what is this fudge consistency? We love it. We
All right.
love it.
We'll be back next week with another Zeke pick to start our second official
Yes.
round of picks, and we'll be doing something awesome, watching a great movie, and hopefully making something amazing that turns out a little bit better than our chocolate did. Celebrate us in our failures and follow along with everything that's going on with Cinema Snack Bar on Instagram at Cinema Snack Bar. You can visit us at cinemasnackbar.com, and if you want to support the show in any subscription model that is available, we would super love that and give you our eternal thanks and anything else that we can do to tell you we appreciate it. Thank you guys so much for listening. We appreciate your support and we appreciate your encouragement and your pity. We'll see you guys next week on Cinema Snack Bar. Until then, I'm Rob.
And I'm Zeke, the end.